Hey team, hope everyone is doing well today. Today I want to give you guys a quick tutorial for y'all about editing photos, basically making your photos look like Instagram filters without actually using Instagram filters. So yesterday I posted this photo here and Pastor Victor texted me and he said, "Oh my gosh, who took this photo?" And I said, "I did, what's up?" And he was like, "What filter did you use? The tones are so good." And I said, "No filter, I did that all by myself." And so, and then he said, "You need to standardize this and make all your photographers edit like this." And I said, "Okay, I will try my best. It may take a while, but this is where we start." So I'm going to show you guys how I edited a photo like this. Okay, so I don't have the original raw photo. I think it's on my camera. So you guys can use any photo you like, but we're going to use this one today, just because this guy's face is giving me life, and his shirt says, "Hi, I'm sexy and I know it," even though you can't really see But this was taken at the outreach on Saturday, so I figured it'd be appropriate to use. Okay, so a few tutorials ago, I talked about the Creative Cloud, which I believe some of you have downloaded. And so in this tutorial, I'm going to be using Photoshop and Lightroom. And you can actually get Photoshop and Lightroom as a photography package with Creative Cloud for $9 a month, so which is not bad. Or I think it's like $9.99. So $10 a month, you can have Photoshop and Lightroom together, which is pretty good. Or if you want to share with somebody, you can pay $5 a month. Hey, whatever floats your boat, whatever you need to do. Okay, so I'm in Lightroom now. When I open it, this is what it looks like. So I'll click on Library, and what I do is, so I go into Lightroom first. Okay, so I'm gonna drag this photo in. Okay, I'm gonna import that, and then I'm gonna click Develop, right? And so my photo is down here, and so I'm just gonna click on that so I can start working. Okay, so these are the typical moves that I do when I edit photos, especially outdoor photos. I bring up the exposure just a little bit, and I'll bring the contrast up a good bit, so 42, like so. I'll bring the exposure down just a little bit, just a tad, because it doesn't need to be too high. Okay, and then depending on what the highs and the lows, or excuse me, the highlights and the shadows look like, that will determine whether I need to mess with this. And so all of our highlights and our shadows are looking pretty good. I don't really need to mess with those. I might bring up my shadow just a little bit, just to bring out his face a little bit more. But other than that, I should be okay. Then I come down to clarity, right here. And I will usually bring that up a little bit. So you can see, if I bring it all the way up, then it's like a little too grungy. So I'll bring it up just a little bit, just to get a little more detail out of the faces and out of some of the things in some of the objects in the photo. Okay. And then again, saturation. So I always reiterate this about saturation. People think that if I saturate it, that makes everything look better. No, it does not. Saturation, it kind of depends on what you're looking for, but in this case, we don't need to oversaturate, so we can, and what I'm going to show you in Photoshop, you'll see in a minute, so I'm just going to put the saturation up just to +9, so not too much. And vibrance, I'm not going to touch. We don't need to add any more vibrance to the photo. And down here is where I can kind of specify, get a little more specific with colors. So if I'm looking for more green out of the trees here, I can actually click on this and bring up the saturation of those greens, or I could turn them down, right? And so I'm not going to mess with that today, because I don't need to really bring it up very much more. But even with his shirt is a little bright, so I could actually bring down the saturation of his red shirt just a little bit. There we go. Okay, and there's a ton more options here in Lightroom. Sharpening, do not touch sharpening. Do not ever sharpen. I think sharpening is kind of like, I don't know, but I can't come up with a good analogy, but Sharpening is never good, especially when you have a sharp camera. Think about it, when your camera is already sharp and when your lens is already sharp, it doesn't need to be sharpened. It actually like makes it look worse. So, no sharpening. Okay, cool. So we are done with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to export. Okay. And here it's just going to ask you where you want to put your photo. So we can put it on the desktop. Well, I'm going to put it in this folder that I've already created. I'm going to hit choose and export. Okay, so now we're done with the Lightroom portion. So I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to look for my photo, and I'm going to come in here, and this is where my photo is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this photo now in Photoshop. Okay, so now that I have it in Photoshop, this is where kind of the fun part comes, I guess. Or if you want to call it the fun part, it's more like the cherry on top. This is where we're going to add our overlay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come to Layer. I'm going to click New Fill Layer and click Solid Color. It's going to ask you if you want to name it. I don't really need to name it because it's only going to be one color. And here you get a solid white overlay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my color wheel to about here, kind of in the green zone, and I'm going to bring my little wheel about right there. So this is kind of where I estimate kind of what colors I'm looking for. So I know I'm going to have it somewhere in the green, so I'm going to click OK. And now that I've done that, I'm going to come to my opacity, and I'm going to bring it all the way down. So, well, not all the way down. I'm actually going to bring it down to about 20%. And I want to make sure that I have this selected. And I'm actually going to say it's still a little too strong, so I'm actually going to say 15%. And 15% looks pretty good. Maybe 14. And that looks pretty good. And so if I click on the little eyeball right here, you can see the difference. Okay, so that's without the overlay, and then this is with the overlay. So it just kind of adds a kind of a softer tone, almost like a vintage look. And this is what I've started to do with some of my photos recently. I've been looking on other Instagram profiles from other photographers, and I noticed that some of I really like their edits, and I like the kind of overlays that they used. And so I came into Photoshop and I just started messing around with different colors and overlays and things like that. So if I want to adjust the color, I can actually double click this, and I can change the color if I want. I can make it red, so you see the colors changed. So again, it kind of depends on what sort of tone you're looking for. But since we're outside, most of the outdoor photos, I'm giving kind of this greenish overlay. So I may bring it towards the white just to lighten it up a little bit. There we go. And that is that. And so if I come back to the original photo that I used here, this is with the overlay, and then this is without the overlay. So you can really see the difference with the overlay and then without the overlay. Okay, so yeah, it just gives it a nice tone to the photo, gives it that nice vintage feel, and so I encourage you guys to kind of mess around with some of those different colors in Lightroom, and then also in Photoshop. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hope this little tutorial helps, and please let me know if I can